warm welcome to you all to the one-on-one set. In the studio tonight, we have with us Ashish Beesoondial. He is the theatre manager of Coda Arts Center and also the playwright of Oripia. Tonight, during this episode of One-on-One, Ashish is going to share with us his passion for the art industry. Ashish, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. I'm really delighted to be here with you.
So, Ashish, you are the theatre manager of Coda Arts Center, but also the playwright of Oripia. First of all, take us down to your journey. What sparked your interest, in playwriting?
I think the interest in playwriting came by quite a while back, right from school days when we were studying literature, when we were being taught literature by fantastic teachers that I had. I was very lucky. I think that shaped the interest in literature, in drama from there on. And then as I went along, I discovered theatre. I had the chance to act. I had the chance to see actors perform. And that's where I got caught by the theatre bug. And so that led to me starting to act. And from there on, I went to study and specialized in theatre. So I became a theatre director, and I'm still trying to learn how to improve. And one of the things with directing is also playwriting. So you need to understand how a play evolves. And so Oripia came by because we felt the need to write something. I must also clarify that I'm not a playwright for literature's sake. I mean, I don't write plays that are published. I write mainly plays that are performed. I write for stage, and Oripia is one such project.
So, you always had this interest in writing, right?
Yes, completely. I think writing is a fascinating exercise. It's about understanding characters, it's about understanding stories, but most importantly, it's about how we bring these stories to the people, whether it's through the medium of stage or whether it's through the medium of writing.
Exactly. Nowadays, you see a lot of people writing, for themselves, journaling, writing books. But playwriting is quite different, right? Because you have to create dialogues.
Yeah.
So, explain to us, how does it go, the
I think
process?
I think the most important thing is to ask, what am I writing? That's the foremost question. Secondly is, for whom am I writing? But perhaps the most important question would be the premise, which would be, why am I writing? What is it that I want to convey? All artists, all playwrights always have something that they want to say. They probably want to change the world. They
Indeed.
probably want to get people to look at the world differently, or they might feel that they want to entertain. So, depending on where we stand with the project, the writing emanates from there, from a choice, from a standpoint that the playwright or the writer will make at that particular moment.
Great. So your play, Euripia,
Yes.
there's a lot of cultural elements involved in it, right? Explain to us, first of all, what is the concept of Euripia? When did it start? It's been a lot of years now.
Yes, it has been 5 years.
Indeed.
This year is the fifth different version of Oripia. So there's been five different stories every year. We've done one particular story. Oripia came by, was a crazy idea, and I think it's always good when ideas come out of some craziness. Um, Oripia came by because we wanted to do a show for Diwali initially.
Okay.
And we said, well, it's best to do something around Bollywood, which is extremely popular, which is a very popular medium we know in Mauritius. I mean, everyone, I think, loves Bollywood dancing and the films. It's such a huge industry. Um, we know there are tremendous dancers in Mauritius. We know there are very good actors in Mauritius. And therefore, the idea of Oripia came by, let's create a story where we can bring in dancing, where we can bring in acting, put both together and present it to the audience. Um, we had to look for a main line, we had to look for a premise, as I mentioned. And I think you would probably know, or our viewers will also know, that there is one line in one of the films that says, it's always about entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. And therefore, this is what has guided Oripia throughout. It's a love story. Obviously, with a love story will come complications. There's no choice. They have to go together. The hero and the villain, the hero, the heroine, and the villain. So it's all each Euripia story has evolved around these themes. Now, we decided to, as the project has evolved with time, we decided to add different spices. We like to use the word masala whenever we are talking about Euripia, because we needed to make it more and more entertaining. And so that's why we brought in the element of farce. One person has been kidnapped at the same time, so that is the subtext. There is the love story. On the other hand, there is a bit of kidnapping that is going on. A detective comes in and he needs to go, T needs to go and look, and the wife is suspecting him. So it becomes a whole entertainment package from start to finish. But obviously, the main part is the dance. I think that is the most beautiful aspect of Euripia.
It was difficult to come up with a story again and again with the same themes.
Um, yes, I think that becomes the challenge, because ultimately the framework that you have is a love story,
Yeah.
and
The
how do you work
expectation as well.
exactly? How do you work around a love story? I mean, we've had the fact that we've done it in five different stories and five different years makes it more and more challenging as you go by, because then you're thinking you don't want it to be in any way. It should not be similar to the previous stories. It has to be more funny. It has to be catchier. It has got to have more impact, more engagement with the audience. Uh, but I think this is the beauty of creativity, and this is the beauty of working in a team. We are always discussing ideas. We're always saying this is possible and this is not possible, and that's how each Euripia has evolved on its own.
Totally. And the title as well is also very interesting. So, what is the main idea of the title?
The main idea, Euripia, I think literally translated is "Oh my love," and I think that says it all. There are some beautiful songs in the Bollywood films that carry the word
Indeed,
Euripia.
yeah, that's true.
Many of them, I think, in the past 4 or 5 years, we've seen a number of songs that are very touching, that carry the word Euripia, and this is where we borrowed, not to say stole the title, not stole the title from. Um, yes, it's supposed to be catchy, and when you're putting up a production, you want your audience to relate to that. And I'm very happy because I think Euripia now is a name that is more of a brand. People identify with Euripia, and that gives us a lot of pleasure, really.
And how do you view, playwriting in Mauritius now? Do you feel that there's an audience for that?
I think playwriting has always been a challenge. There have been several authors writing, not from now, but from ages back. I've had good friends who are now unfortunately no more, but their words still live on. Great playwrights, Bismadev Sibalak, Devi Rasomi, all of them have been writing to push forward playwriting or Mauritian literature. Um, Playwriting has been a challenge. Playwriting at one moment in time, I think there were many people who were interested in plays, many people who were interested in texts, in words, in strong words, because the plays were echoing their reality. And I'm talking about playwriting in 70s or 80s. And then there's been this huge gap in Mauritius. I like to call that a cultural gap, where there wasn't much theater happening, but there were other sources of entertainment that had
Indeed.
started
Yeah.
coming up. So it's very tricky to try and find out what is playwriting and whether playwriting is still relevant. I would like to say yes. There are a number of writers, there are a number of poets, there are a number of novelists, and everyone is contributing together, still putting ideas on paper in order to reach out to the people. But the world is evolving so fast. But I think what we should not neglect is another argument, and that argument is that every one of us has got a creative side. I think every one of us has got a performative side. When I look at the small videos that are being shot every day on TikTok or on whatever platform it is, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, you realize that everyone wants to tell a story. And this is where I think the notion of playwriting is there. We want to tell stories. Obviously, we can't compare, but the idea of telling stories, the idea of wanting to hear stories is part of us. And that makes me think that there is scope for creativity, there is scope for stories, there is scope for people to be interested in good stories that we can provide.
It's also important to adapt, I feel, with the use of technology to
Yep.
keep up to date and connect with your audience in a much better way.
Totally agree. And I think the audience of today is so technologically advanced that we have to keep pace. I think the notion of playwriting or the notion of literature shouldn't always be restricted to, as we knew it back then, to the page. So there is more. There's more to it, especially in the world now.
And now, concerning Eurepia again, there are different characters in it,
Yeah.
right? And characters, when writing them for a specific movie, for a specific book, it's different.
Yeah.
And for play, it's totally different. You need to be able to convey those emotions to the
Yes.
audience sitting out there. So, talk to us about how did you delve into the motivations of each character when writing about them?
Yes, it's true. Each character has needs a specific motivation. Otherwise, the performance becomes boring and it gets boring very fast. And what I've learned over the years is if you put up a production that for the first 10 minutes does not appeal to your audience, you lose your audience. And once you lose your audience,
There's no
that's it.
going back.
That's it. There's no going back. So, therefore, the process of writing starts with creating impactful characters. However, I'd like to point out that in a production that aims at entertainment, I think the question that we need to answer is: are we creating characters, or are we bringing out character types? And I think this is where the difference is.
Yeah.
For a project that is more entertainment based, we are focusing on character types. Now, these character types, and that's when it's very interesting, these character types reflect the people themselves, the people as we know them. So when an audience is looking at a character type on stage, he or she will identify
Identify.
someone somewhere in the household, on the road, somewhere, or one incident in life that you've met. So when we're writing, we actually try to consider all of that. And we need to create characters that are not abstract, but create characters that people can relate to. And from there, once the characters have been created, we also need to create the situations, because a character will only be defined as per the situation. A character is not a character on his or her own. Character is how a character manages within a specific framework. And therefore, character and situations go together. And this is where we need to think, and this is what we've done with Euripia. What is it that will appeal to the audiences in the first 10 to 15 minutes? And it's from there that the plot gets rolling.
I think I agree with what you say. It is important to have this element of identification because when you identify to a character on screen, it's when that you'll be able to keep engaged with the
Absolutely,
story.
absolutely. I think it's always important. We've grown up that way. We've grown up with stories, as I said that time. We we like to identify. We need to
Yeah.
identify. We need to not only identify. We need to either sympathize, or we need to empathize, or we need to dislike, or we need to like. There are various degrees of
Yep.
responding or engaging with characters. And characters, I think they help us think a lot. They help us think, they help us comment, and they also help us look introspectively so that we can relate better.
So how was the whole process of writing Euripia and taking it to the stage? Talk to us a bit about it.
Um, I, I, if there's one expression that I like to use for Euripia, it's a whole movement from page to stage. I like to
Yeah.
use it because it rhymes, but this is what it is. Uh, we've got a I, I can't stop praising our group of dancers and actors who are so committed to the project. They're there. They are always there. Everyone's very busy working in the art center together. So when we try things out, it may not necessarily work out the way we want, but there's always a process of trying. Is this scene working? Do we go back and rework it? So there's a constant back and forth with the actors. And it's just incredible because we're very lucky to have a group, the Euripia troupe, that is very keen to try, that is very keen to learn, that is very keen to say, let's experiment. So the text is always progressing until we say, that's it, we are done, we're ready to go on stage.
And how do you view the reception of the audience towards the play?
Fantastic. I mean, I'm very humbled by that idea. The initial idea of having Euripia was to have a show that appeals to everyone, to have dancers from different communities from different ethnic communities on stage sharing one space, and therefore to have audiences from different ethnic groups in the theater coming together and sharing this one moment of joy, of happiness, of applause, and so on. And the response has been fabulous for us. I mean, the audience has been wanting more and more, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming and for supporting this project.
Do you feel that, when you're writing that play, do you feel that there's certain pressure as well on the actors to be able to deliver exactly what you want?
Totally.
And are you satisfied?
Yes.
I mean, how does it go?
There is always that dose of pressure, whether we're professionals or not. I think
Yeah.
there's always the stress of, will this be up to standard? Will it meet the audience's expectations? But more importantly, what I like very much about this group is, are we going to surpass our own standards? And I think that has been the driving force every year. We've always aimed at improving. We've always aimed at improving performances. We've always aimed at improving the dance, the story, the technical aspect. There's a whole group that is working together to make this happen.
So how much time does it take overall?
The writing phase takes easily a long time.
I know
It
it's
takes a
not
long
easy
time
because
before the idea is born, and then you start writing draft after
exactly.
draft, and then discuss, and then go back and correct. Uh, and then comes the time which is where the page to stage starts to come. That's where we say, this is what we want to see in this scene. And that's when the choreographers come in. And hats off to them, because they're always very patient, and they need to dig into our minds to find out what is it that we want to say, because you want to see that through the dance forms. So it becomes a very organic work between the text, to the choreographers, to the technical team, to the whole dance troupe, and to the actors. So it becomes a good collaborative endeavor that is put together.
But are there any intentional, references made to literature in the play? And
Completely.
why?
I think we need that. Oripia 3 was a crazy project. It was an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, and we had a lot of fun. I mean, the intertextual elements were there. We had a lot of fun with Shakespeare himself as a creator of the original story. And here we're being forced to adapt that story to give it a Bollywood twist. And I think it's important because through that, people had a different perspective. Everyone knows the story of Romeo and Juliet, which is a very, I think, very strong, very powerful story. We kept that same line. We kept the same emotions. It was a very emotional performance. But then it was loaded with so much fun because it was a
To
spoof.
construct and deconstruct.
Exactly, exactly. I think this is where we played around with the
Yeah.
audience's expectations at the same time. But it's always good whenever we're coming up with a production to measure it with what is considered to be the great literary works. We need to borrow from that. I think we need to do that so that there is more substance.
We are actually drawing towards the end of this episode, but before that, Ashish, Oripia is going to be aired last time next week.
Yes.
So, how do you feel about that? And
Uh,
what would you say to our audience to encourage them to watch it?
very excited that we're coming back. And we're coming back because people have asked us, when are you doing Euripia again? So this is why the show is being scheduled for St. Valentine's, which is 14th of February. It's a love story, so there's no better date than to stage Euripia than on Valentine's Day. I hope people come. I hope people enjoy. I hope people enjoy the evening. We are here to offer entertainment, and I really, really hope that people latch on to it.
And as someone who's very passionate about playwriting, any message you would like to give to youngsters who want to be, well, aspiring to be a playwright like you?
I would have said It's a line that I learned before whenever we did all the playwriting courses. Don't get it right, get it written. There's a lot to it. So if we seek perfection in the very first draft, it will never happen. Writing is a constant exercise. It's about constant evaluation and saying, I will get there. So it takes time, and to give time to time, it will work out.
Thank you so much, Ashish. It was a true honor to have you on the set tonight and learn
Thank you
more
very
about your
much.
wonderful journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dear viewers, we have now come to the end of this episode. Thank you for your time. We hope to catch you next week at the same time, same channel. Have a great evening.